so much for joining me once again. This is What the Frout with J-Zilla. For those of you who are just tuning in, appreciate you. Hopefully you stick around. I have with me today one Bobby Zaidan. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How
I'm
are
very
you?
well, thank you for asking. So what do you do now, man? You seem very important. You got the beard there and the glasses. What do you do now?
Well, I work for Georgia State University's recreational services. I'm the marketing specialist.
Mm.
So I do all the advertisements, publications, video work, all for the recreation centers, which we have technically five out of six campuses. So it's a lot of work.
Wow, 5 out of 6. What do you mean by campuses? Is it different branches of the same university, or like 5 universities?
They're just the satellite campuses. So our main campus is downtown Atlanta,
Mm.
and then we have what we call our perimeter campuses. So that's Alpharetta, Dunwoody, Clarkston, Newton, Decatur. I feel like I'm missing one, but uh, yeah, it's they're all the satellite campuses. Georgia State University. From what I understand, they offer both associates and bachelors. So when they acquired Perimeter College, they kind of kept everything intact. But it's really the perimeter campuses can help students who maybe may be like non-traditional, so not 18 to 24. They may have kids, but they can still pursue a degree.
Mm. That's very good. Yeah, I'm glad that us old folks are thought about like that. So, what sort of what does your job entail? What are sort of the things that I guess your job responsibilities?
Well, I'm in charge of five very talented
Oh,
graphic design students.
sorry. Go ahead.
So five graphic design students, and what we do is essentially we do all the marketing, which includes looking at numbers of sales, looking at points of interest, looking at engagement on social media. Social media is one of our biggest drivers. Um, Looking at environmental design, and what we do is we design per special event, per program. We have like six different programs, and again, that number is probably way off, but anything ranging from group fitness classes to intramural sports to sport clubs, aquatics, all the different types of stuff. And essentially, we make sure that they know the information and we can get a little bit of interest.
Mm.
Within this next year, we're also building consumer personas where we can actually start to say who is our intramural ideal customer and how do we get them in the door.
Wow, that sounds almost like a Fortune 500 sort of research, or
Can be. It
yeah.
can be. But a lot of it really kind of deals in with the understanding that not every student's going to come in wanting to do one particular thing over the other, but also the vice versa of that. There's some students who come in. We have a giant gymnasium. Like we have four basketball courts in there. I think maybe they're half size,
Mm.
but that's one of our biggest things is drop-in basketball. Of course, during this time we can't offer it, but we will when we will in some point. But getting those students to understand like we offer a lot of other things as well. Like they may not know that we offer martial art classes. So kind of finding some intersectionality with them, making sure that they're just aware. Because if we can get them on the awareness piece, then we can see who's really wanting to engage.
That sounds like a headache financially, as far as budgeting for what's being attended and things like that. How does that work?
Uh, Budgeting is a very interesting beast right now. Um, Strictly just because with not having so many students on campus right now, like we are in a hybrid system, so
Oh,
or a
right,
hybrid
right.
program. So half the students are on campus, half of them are off. So it really feels like a summer semester.
Mm,
So not a lot of people are on campus right now. When it comes to budgeting, really every dollar, every cent really matters. So it's a lot of research and are we going to have the most return on investment? Are we going to have the biggest impact? Because we can have great intention, but if your impact is terrible, then you're not going to have any payoff.
mm,
So this semester, for sure, we kind of limited our publications. We're kind of being a little more strategic about print media because obviously print's going to cost more money. We're trying to use a lot more of our social media. We're trying to use a lot more of our um, what was it? Our environmental, so LCD screens.
mm-hmm.
Our perimeter campuses do pretty well with print, but again, limiting down to where we are placing things and how much we are printing. So, and of course, newer equipment right now needs to be put on hold. I would love to have a drone. No, I don't know why I want a drone, but I would love to have a drone. But of course, we need to wait on that.
Mm-hmm.
So, just being as strategic as possible. We do also have Panthersville field, so a lot of our intramurals like flag football, soccer
Mm-hmm.
are all out there. And then we also have our lodge, which is the Indian Creek Lodge. We have our rope course out there, and then student organizations and other departments on campus can actually reserve space to hold like retreats or they can hold meetings. And it's a good distance out there where you can really kind of escape the city.
That's nice. As far as an environment standpoint, excuse me. So one of, to my understanding, with intramural sports, do the students pay like a fee? Is that solely where your stuff comes from, or your budget and your budgetary funds, or is it more of
Most of,
a like you do promotions
oh yeah.
and like do they have fans? How does that work?
Surprisingly, they do. They do have fans because a lot of fraternities and sororities compete, and a lot of organizations
Okay.
compete. But most of our fees come from actual student fees. So we have a student activity fee that they pay, and once they pay it, it's they can participate in intramurals, group fitness. Some of our instructional clinics do cost some more money, but you're talking like $15 for like 8 martial art
Mm,
classes, which is really nothing. It's really inexpensive.
mm-hmm.
Our outdoor trips, like our outdoor adventures, where they actually can go to all these different places and go hike, they offer those trips at a very discounted cost, something that may cost you like $200 to go with you and a friend, you're paying 60.
Mm,
So we do have some things that do cost a little bit more, but most of it comes from student fees.
okay. Now, how closely are you involved? I don't know why, but I picture you in like a dark room with a hoodie and like just crunching numbers. Do you ever get to actually interact with the students themselves, the players and fans alike?
Uh, yeah, so my first semester, I participated in bowling
Mm.
and sand volleyball. One thing I learned is a big boy hitting that sand in the fall hurts. It's like concrete.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So it's definitely talking with them a lot more. My biggest thing is obviously human centered design and marketing, where we are focusing on a human being. So talking with them, having interviews, having surveys where we're actually speaking with somebody can actually get a better kind of understanding. But yeah, my office oversits the squat racks,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm constantly shaking when people slam their weights. Um, so, but it's right there on the first floor, so I can easily walk
Mm-hmm.
out and everybody. And my students are very engaged with their classmates and with other departments and stuff, so they'll talk about it.
Okay.
We'll have open discussions, and yeah, it's we also have comment box. We also, again, everybody's always walking around right
Mm,
now, especially we're trying to enforce masks, but we're always walking around. We're always trying to talk to the students and just really kind of hear them out also because, this is a time where they need to develop their own opinion and their own perspective. This is that part of their development. So we need to listen. We need to hear them out.
that's a lesson we all can take. I have four children myself. I feel like I should be taking notes. I know they'll appreciate that sort of advice. So, for those of you who don't know, Bobby and I played football together, and he was our very mean nose guard. How do you go from being nose guard to a guy with glasses like that?
I don't know. I was a weird little kid too, but I was man, those football days I think prepared me more than anything to when I got out of high school and got into college because I had the discipline. I will say
Mm-hmm.
that. I very much had the discipline. Um, and I actually played rugby for a short bit with the Nashville Grizzlies.
Oh wow.
Um, then I got a spinal injury, and I was like, okay, we're
Oh
done.
man. Uh, I'm sorry to hear that.
So yeah, it wasn't fun at the time, but um, yeah, I would say like playing nose. I got beat up a lot. I think you remember that game with like Hillwood.
Which one?
And their with Hillwood and their
Oh
center
my
was like the
goodness.
size of a dump truck.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Well, so for people who don't know, we were not very good. We were quite enthusiastic, but we were not
Hmm.
good at all. But yeah, man, I think one of my fondest memories was playing in I feel like it was Hickman County. We always look forward to that because we always knew that, we had a little bit more than them, and it was always like let's build our stats and confidence. you know, so all those other games I've kind of just blacked out,
Yeah,
except for the one time we beat Central. Yeah, I'm actually
that
married
was
to a
a big.
lion now. My producer over here. So yeah, we had one out of I think it's like 10,473 and a half somehow. But yeah, man, I love playing with you. Like you always seem like you were just like, I'm above it all. I'm not worried about anything. Nothing rattled you. You never seemed scared. I mean, just like, what you want me to do? Okay, I got it. You want me to slam my face into the guy twice my size? Yeah, okay, I got it. I got it. Don't worry about it. I always admire that.
And entire time I was scared. I
Oh,
was like
so you got
terrible.
a bit of a poker face, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Coach Stone would be like, you need to go. You got to be mean. You got to be mean. I'm like, are you serious with this guy? Like, I think at one point in the game, I literally jumped on his back.
Oh man, I hope that's on film somewhere. I'm about to talk to Brian about that. So are you ever, I guess, tempted to get out there and like show the guys like, all right, enough with this squat bar. Let me show you how to really squat. Are you that guy?
Uh, well, since the spinal injury, I'm not able to do squats,
Oh,
but I will say I do listen to the funny conversations. Recently we had a student who slammed the bar down.
mm-hmm.
I guess he got a good rep in, and I swear on both sides were like 10-pound plates, and he's just like, yeah, bro, yeah. It was like he was getting into it. And the girl
That's
next to
awesome.
him was doing like 45-pound plates, looking at him, going,
Oh.
"You are doing this wrong."
I can imagine him just getting roasted all the way back to the locker room, man. We
And
guys can be hard on each other.
yeah, and our fitness and wellness assistant director Jenny, she is very particular about watching people with form. We have a lot of great personal trainers, very
Mm-hmm.
well trained. So we'll watch people from form and stuff like that. Right now, it's hard because we can't spot. So it's a lot of people have that understanding. So I don't think they're going full force with it.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of holding back a little bit, like they need to. But for the most part, especially if you're gonna, a lot of the students are gonna get hit the squat racks or hit the benches. they were ex-football players, basketball players, whatever. Like they hit the weight room before. They know what they're doing.
Okay. Okay. What sound effect that was? So, what sort of education does it? I mean, what level, I guess, does it require you to have that sort of position?
Well, it required a master's. I kind of went a very non-traditional route. I got my bachelor's in graphic design, and then I got my master's in clinical mental health.
Yeah.
Um,
Like, forgive me, that doesn't seem like it meshes well.
it doesn't, but it does. And a lot of what I do now is a lot of research that actually combines both worlds. Is
Hmm.
again learning to listen. One of was it Rogers? He's one of the founders of just our traditional means of counseling.
Mm.
Had three core conditions, which were being genuine,
Hmm.
practicing unconditional positive regard, and the last one just slipped my mind. But unconditional positive regard, and it was something about and showing empathy, and it's in a way we do a lot of that within marketing because when we are presenting our brands,
Mm.
for instance, and just so everyone knows, like brands are kind of your audience's view of you.
Mm.
When you're buying Nike and you're like, I like the Nike brand, you like what they present to you, and that's what you are buying.
Mm.
So when we're presenting our brands, we want to make sure we're empathetic with who our audience is and what their struggles are, what are their pain points, and how are we providing solutions. Also, with the unconditional positive regard, being non-judgmental, meaning that we're dropping our biases at the door.
Hmm.
Like, somebody who isn't sports related can still excel in intramurals. They
Okay.
may not know. They may like group fitness and um, all different aspects. And it's the whole point is getting them in here to let them try, and let them kind of explore. And again, dropping it at the door that, oh, they're built a certain way, therefore they're incapable, when the truth of the matter is we don't know. We don't have that information. So, as somebody in marketing, we have to practice that. And then, of course, being genuine, we want to make sure we are as real as possible. Sometimes when we're posting,
Hmm.
it's, especially during our first shutdown back in March, it's when you're sitting at, doing a social media post, when you're sitting at home, literally going through Netflix, take a break, work out, here's a video. And just being genuine with them because we know that they're sitting at home doing
Right.
just
Right.
their Netflix. So there's a lot of things that do intermix. In fact, a lot of research articles I've been doing have actually combined the worlds together. I think it's something that counseling actually should be doing is starting to branch out from just traditional clinical mental health
Yeah.
and going into this, kind of like psychology
Right.
is doing now. Yeah. So that's generally, yeah, it's a master's degree. I think they just generally want a master's degree, but for anybody who's interested in marketing, there's a lot of things you can do with just your bachelor's. And if you do want to get your master's, it's like a year long. So it's not like it's a hard degree to get. It's just
Mm.
um, it's a very interesting field and it's constantly changing.
See, now that keeps it interesting. That change, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What's an example of somebody that came in who were probably doubting themselves, and because of your branding, it changed their minds, and once it was all said and done, they realized they enjoyed it and excelled at it more than they thought.
Um, I would say when I was back at Texas A&M, that's where I got my master's degree. Was Texas
Yeah.
A&M University in Corpus Christi. So one of their satellite schools. Uh, they you saw a lot of it actually. It was a lot of freshmen coming in the first time, like they're experiencing things on their own, having to take care of their own well-being on their
Mm-hmm.
own. We did a program. It was a student wellness program. So you got to meet with a dietitian, you got to meet with a personal trainer. Um, it was obviously it was a good example of just like, this is everything that we offer.
Hmm.
And this is everything that we can do for you. And there were a lot of students who were just, that would interview for it. And they would say like, this is the first time I've ever had to do anything on my own. Like, I tried making pancakes the other day, and I swear I burnt them. And
Yeah,
you
man.
know, you know, it you see it a lot walking through our door. It's just um, one thing I can say that student success does at Georgia State is we help build students' resiliency. We give them kind of that escape, but in a way we help kind of build their resiliency because we give a lot of programming for stuff that they can do on their own.
Mm.
So it's you see it all the time. You just see students walking in going, "Well, I wanted to try this for a long time, but I'm scared," um, and then they do it, and all of a sudden they fall in love with it. I mean, a lot of our outdoor, which our program's called Touch the Earth. That's what they're called.
Touch the earth. Did I get that right?
Yeah. So they a lot of their attendants um, were just interested in a trip at one point, and they went on it, and all of a sudden they just started becoming acclimated to it. They can start going on trips on their
Hmm.
own. They wanted to start becoming trip leaders. They wanted to start working on like working with the climbing wall.
Okay.
Um, so it happens a lot in our facility.
I think that's great, especially since you can start off with one thing that may or may not interest you currently or has in the past, but then you move on
Mm-hmm.
to try other things. I think it's important that we do that. You talked about
Yeah.
seeing a nutritionist and all those sort of things. Like that sounds good for, I mean, just about anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a bigger thing with our marketing right now is a lot of our dietitian is seeing people through telehealth, but they write blogs. They work with students, especially students who want to become dietitians or nutritionists.
Hmm.
We work with them, and so they have a lot of graduate assistants, and they'll work with students. One thing I think that's so great because I got to see the dietitian when I was a grad student, and she was like, "Well, what kind of vegetables do you eat?" I was like, "Well, I like broccoli as long as it's smothered in
Oh
cheese."
no.
And she's like, "Okay, well, there's a start. So let's like maybe like pile a little of the cheese off
Right.
this next go." They really work in hearing you out and hearing like, okay, what are these small measurable goals? Because we can't get to the final place. You're not going to get to the final place if I tell you right now, like, just drop all of this.
Hmm.
Um, they really work on like setting you on a path that's really kind of measurable and easy for you to do. Because you got to remember, some of these students, they're in dorms. They're trying to make ramen,
Oh, the
you
microwave.
know.
Yeah.
So they have a very short amount of access to like extremely healthy food and stuff like that. So we really try letting them know on campus also, like, okay, if you're gonna go to Panda, try not like maybe not get the fried rice, maybe go for the veggies.
Good
Like,
old Panda E.
yeah, oh, Panda.
Oh, Panda. Sugar, chicken, and carbs. It's great. So, what you talked about some of the students that just are clueless, or you know, once they get out on their own. How come there aren't more programs in, say, a middle school, high school, to kind of prepare them for that? If that's what schools are supposed to be doing, is preparing them for the university path or a different sort of vocation. What are we missing?
Speaking in my own opinion, I think it has a lot to do with funding. I think that's a bigger reason we're also trying to cut the arts as much as humanly possible. As much as I enjoyed playing football, I do think that athletics kind of gets more of the pull when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to budgets. Not all the time, and it doesn't mean it's an extreme of pull, but I do think what's happening is we are just trying to make sure the bare minimum requirements are getting met. When the truth of the matter is, there are some students who just do not want to go to college. They want to go the military path,
Hmm.
or they want to go to trade school or something like that, and that's completely valid. But we need to be also the people that step in, going, okay, for everybody, we're gonna. This is a mandatory course on finances. Like that
Right.
was one thing I was really kind of surprised getting out of school is like getting hit with like personal finances. That's a massive one.
Hmm.
Like how to rent an apartment. And one thing I didn't know until my business law class in college was if you are running or you just signed your lease for an apartment, you go to your apartment and half the apartment wall is crashed in,
Hmm.
you can end your lease because it's not a livable space. And I didn't know that.
Oh.
And there's a lot of things I think in high school that we could spend more time and more effort
Hmm.
into pushing in, especially in these fields where students can really look at student loans and saying like, well, how much am I really borrowing, and
Right.
this is doable.
Right. And interest
That's
rates
probably
and things of that nature.
yeah. If I'm gonna, lease a car, buy a car, or whatever the case may be, it's just stuff that is going to actually be usable. How do I pick the perfect plan for myself for insurance? You know, stuff like that. And I think with school systems, I think they just want to kind of meet the bare minimum.
Hmm.
And I think it has a lot to do with what they feel is like scarce resources when it could be a community actual your community can actually be a resource. Somebody from the bank, talk to somebody about coming in from the bank, to the class, or talk to somebody, Tennessee, of course, like Nissan. If you have some students who are interested in Nissan, look, let me tell you about what it's like at Nissan
See, that sounds
and stuff like that.
right. That sounds like a more fruitful career fair, right? Let's sit down and
Mm-hmm.
have a real conversation about some very real possible career paths. I know someone
Yeah.
myself who works for one of the bigger banks, and actually one of the
Mm-hmm.
resources they offer is for free. They'll come in and speak to anyone. I mean, at all ages. I mean, it's a wide age range, from little
Mm-hmm.
kids all the way up to adults about financial literacy. I mean, just basic stuff, saving, budgeting, things of that nature, and it's a free service. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much more to banking than just somewhere to put your money, spend and then argue with about withdrawal fees and things like that. Like, there's a lot of
Yeah.
free resources. I wonder how come that's not more widespread as far as knowledge.
And I'm not sure if it's just like the amount of awareness. I mean, even with educators, also with as much as they have to put up with and
Mm.
do, I wonder if the resources aren't really kind of covered with them as well. But again, I think what can happen is the fact that we can become a society or a species, whatever we want to call it at this point, but we can become a much stronger human being if we're just presented with this knowledge. Like all it takes is just somebody presenting the
Hmm.
knowledge. We're still gonna have people fall flat on their face.
Right.
We're still gonna have issues as long as we provide them the information. They're the ones who are gonna make the cognitive choice to either want to take that information and go with it, or whatever the case may be, or just ignore it.
Hmm.
Now, we also have to put in mind a little bit about when it comes down to also cultural fixes or cultural understandings also. Um, because I think that plays another part into it is minimum requirements. Let's just get this amount of this type of person out the door with the graduation
Hmm.
cap because we check off that box. When the truth of the matter is, we haven't really fulfilled as much as we can with them.
Right. The whole idea behind C's get degrees, right? Yeah, you just
Hmm.
make it and then you get a job, and like that sounds good, but you're not really preparing me,
Right.
for the next level.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think some of the, like, especially student athletes now, because I think there was an article that went out that a lot of student athletes are now starting to speak up, essentially about their likeness being used for advertisement rights
Hmm.
and stuff like that, because they don't see a dime of it.
Right.
And at some point, you have to consider, like, how are you kind of scratching their back? How are you helping them out? And to the ones who go into the NFL or MLB or the NBA,
Hmm.
know, some of these students have never been presented with like how to handle finances, and you're about to give them a lot of money.
Right.
We're doing a massive disservice without at least giving them information and making sure they understand the information.
Right. Right. And just having a backup plan, like maybe, you know, you're part of that small percentage that actually goes professional and succeeds at it for a period of time. Maybe not. And I know a lot of, especially athletes, don't want to hear it. Every one of them believe they're like, oh, I'm going to make it. No one works harder than me, XYZ. And it's traumatic when it doesn't happen, and then they're left standing there with nothing to fall back on, and it's really tragic. I like your brother's, shout out to Brian Zaidan out there. I like his the way he put it. I mean, it was a great visualization for me. How sports is like a funnel. You start out and everyone's in little league, and the further you get down, it just starts to shrink and shrink and shrink until the ones that actually make it out are the ones that turn professional or even play college sports. Those are some
Right.
small numbers that make it. Like percent wise, it's incredibly small. I can't even. That's something you can look up there, producer. Like how many athletes? Um, we'll just stick to college. How many athletes? How many collegiate athletes actually turn pro as a whole? But that's a small number, man. And like I said, from middle school to high school, I understand we have to have focus on the STEM fields. That's an all around
Hmm.
useful thing. And I really like this push that's happening, trying to change STEM to STEAM by really boosting up, I guess, or propping up the arts as being part of the STEM fields. I think it's
Yeah.
extremely important. And it's definitely a viable way to make some legal tender. And I don't know, we're so diverse as people. You can talk about America, but just people in general, we're so diverse. I feel like there's enough out here if everyone is exposed, like you said earlier, to
Hmm.
different types of learning, different ways, different career paths, then we'll really start to see us as a society, sort of thrive.
Yeah.
Instead of everybody kind of funneled in and pushed like, you're tall, you're basketball. All these labels that get put on us fairly early. And then when it doesn't work
Yeah.
out and no one's asked the child, like, well, what are you interested in? What are your passions? What, really drives you? Then by the
Hmm.
time they're supposed to be adults and good citizens, we see homelessness. We see people try to fill that void, by self-medicating and just a myriad of
Hmm.
different, um, I guess, repercussions from not, taking care of them from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. And all it takes is the fact that we step in and saying you have other options, because we don't know that basketball player could actually be brilliant
Mm,
in math, could be a science whiz, could be somebody who's just like, I mean, I'd be interested, or, if I don't go basketball, but I want to go education because I want to be at
mm-hmm,
least a high school basketball coach who
mm-hmm,
teaches. And it's like, you have options. There's a lot of different options out there. And, you know, it's, there's a trauma that happens. And again, it's a cultural
mm-hmm.
trauma that happens. And as a society, we don't want to deal with trauma because we just want to say, well, you just gotta get over it. But we don't want to recognize the fact that it has changed our entire mindset.
Right, right. And it really hurts us as a whole. So my producer's telling
Mhm.
me that out of all collegiate sports, less than 2% turn professional. Less than 2%. That's bananas. And that's something we really have to look at. There are people like my mom who kind of, we were born. I was born in Dallas, and that's a Texas is a huge football state, and all of my
Hmm.
family play football, and people were begging like, "Oh, he's big. He needs to play. He needs to play," and my mom just refused to even allow, I guess, the sort of for lack of a way of saying this, the wolves at the gate to enter, and was like, "No, he's going to do something. Like he's not going to sit around and be stagnant." But I'm gonna let him just do what he's interested in, and right and that, for a long time, Bobby, I don't know if you know this or not, it was Boy Scouts and Magic. And anytime I could get my hands on a comic book, that's what I enjoyed. It wasn't until middle
Yeah.
school that I was kind of like, I'll try it out, and I realized, hey, I like that too.
Yeah.
My sons are, according to our doctor, are going to be bigger than me, but take them to a park, man. One is absolutely one of those kids that you just say like, oh yeah, I have to get him into sports, or he's gonna hurt somebody. That's the 1 year old. But the 3 year old, you take him to a park and he's looking at leaves and bugs and sticks and like all the equipment. There's like we could have done this at home, you know, and just some of the stuff he likes to watch. Like he browses YouTube now, which is mind blowing for me. Well, one of the things we saw him watching is this thing where I guess they like smoke out an ant hill or whatever it's called. What do you call it underground? Ant hill. There you go. You smoke the ants out. You pour some sort of alkaline metal or something like that. You dig it up as a whole and power wash it so you can see the different networks, the inner
Hmm.
workings of it. I don't think I would have ever thought to even begin to search that. So
Yeah.
it really is about trying to do your best to pay attention and just support rather than kind of, push one way or the other.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and again, changes they'll have different changes in hobbies and stuff like that. So if you see something early, one thing I learned while I was counseling um, was we definitely want to see things early, and we were just like, just go with it, just go with it, just go with it. But just the matter is, like, things do change throughout time. They're going to develop, and as long as you constantly keep that supportive door open,
Mm-hmm.
then they're going to not be afraid to explore, and that's what we want. We want to make sure that we're allowing kids and teenagers and everyone to explore, of course, healthy exploration, but explore. We want to make sure that we're providing the safety net for if something falls or something, like, let's both get back up
Mm-hmm.
together. But if we're all in this together, we're all going to be together doing
Mm-hmm.
this, and um, you just see a difference. You just see the difference in somebody who has just been supported their entire life. Their affect and their esteem is so high, and so they just develop a natural form of self love that the rest of us have to kind of learn.
Mm.
So, um, yeah, it's incredibly important.
Absolutely. I love how you said do it together. I do feel
Hmm.
like in general we've kind of lost that sense of community.
Yeah.
So we know we could probably talk forever about some of the systemic things that go wrong on for the different levels of education and communities and cultures and all that sort of thing. And as much as I hate that saying of pull yourself up by your bootstraps, I hate this.
Yeah.
I hate that. There is some validity to it. What would you advise people who are just you know, we'll say for example, I don't want to use a real school. We'll say like I don't know Spring Hill High School, right? Someone who
Yeah.
comes from Spring Hill High School. How do you tell someone if they feel like they're being overwhelmed once they go to college and not capable of keeping up or keeping with to pace with some of those things, some of the collegiate level things, whether it be sports or classwork? What are you telling them in order to help them get through that difficult time? Like, how do they not burn pancakes?
Yeah. Yeah. Probably the first thing I would say to them would be, you don't have to conquer the world in the first week of classes.
Ooh, That's good.
You know, the just learn where your classes are. Um,
Step by step, just
yeah,
that's great.
just learn where your classes are. As for like your dorm and your other settings, like let's just learn where we are, just where our environment is. That's all. Like let's just spend this first
Mm-hmm.
week learning where our environment is, where we are, and again, not accomplishing 10 million things all at
Mm-hmm.
once because um, we're we don't have to. This first week, we don't have to. Just give yourself some time, give yourself some space. Maybe packing on 5 classes your first
Mm-hmm.
semester, probably not the smartest move. Maybe your second semester, you may want to only do 4,
Mm-hmm.
but understand where you are, where like, and be okay and just accept where you are. There's something called radical acceptance. Did I cause this? Can I change it? Can I control it?
Ooh.
If you say no to all of those, you practice something called radical acceptance, which is this is the way it is right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm okay. Like I can move from here,
Right. Well, say that again
but
for
I
me. Sorry.
radical
Radical
acceptance
acceptance. What are the three components?
can't change it, can't control it, and you didn't cause it.
Okay.
Now, college students, especially when they're coming up with their stuff, they're like, "Well, I did cause this." Well, yeah. Then guess what? You have a place to move from. Well,
Mm.
I can change it. Yes. So it works. There's two sides of the coin on it. If you can do one of those, then you have a place to move on from. If you can't, then maybe it's a time to take a second to say, "Okay, let me just take a minute to accept where I am right
Mm-hmm.
now and figure out where I can move on from it." Um, in fact, it's something I tried teaching my students at one point. Um, they kind of had a hard time with the word acceptance, and it's about acceptance doesn't mean that you like what's going on or that you're incredibly excited about the situation. It acceptance is just about understanding what the reality of what is going on.
Mm.
So um, with them with yeah, the little raider coming into, uh, GSU, for instance, and becoming a panther, it takes a lot for a raider to become a panther.
Okay.
And it's okay to take it in stride, to take it slow. Explore. Just see where you can go. Again, you don't have to accomplish the world in one night. You know? Um, in fact, you probably don't want to do that in one night. So, yeah, that would probably be my biggest thing is just take it slow, take it in steps.
Do you have a lot of anxiety filled students who just worry about everything and kind of standoffish and very introverted?
I did. My students are the students I have now are very very confident, very they have a lot of understanding of
Mm.
themselves. So, but yeah, I did have a student who was just riddled with anxiety, and you can just tell because getting a project done from
Mm.
them took ages because they were overthinking. And it's a lot. The transition from high school to college is just a lot. It's all of a sudden your safety net that you have held on
Mm.
to, you feel like isn't there, but it is still there. It's just formatted differently.
Right.
So a lot of things with her turned into breaking the projects down into measurable steps. And she picked up enough speed where she was able to do it on her own.
Mm.
So yeah, it's there's a lot of acclimation, and when you move off to a college, especially, there's a lot of colleges now that are putting a lot of time and effort because there's a lot of research that shows this that in those first couple of weeks you can help retain your student numbers by providing them a massive amount of resources.
Hmm.
And that's why we have freshman orientations.
Right.
That's why we have, um, which freshman orientations are always interesting, but we have freshman orientations and we have those first week programs and stuff like, come down to we're going to do a barbecue down here and it's all about meeting new people and,
Hmm.
um, come to the rec center. Of course, when they come to the rec center, they always place them right outside my door. So I can never leave my office.
Right. It keeps you young. Keeps the juices flowing. Can't
Yeah.
have too much peace. You'll get too much work done.
Yeah. Um, tutoring services, health services, career services. I'd also encourage that person, after they start getting acclimated, maybe look to get a job on campus. There's something nice about being able to go to class and then go to work and you're in the same
Oh yeah.
place.
Oh yeah. So I know about that. I did some of that myself. My commute took me about 106 steps to my job. It was great. Yeah. So when you have people like that, like so these situations, what are some of the I guess some of the harder times for you in your job?
Ooh, um, first is deadlines.
Mm,
The second is sometimes coordinators don't fully have a grasp on the marketing side or the graphic design side. So having to explain why doing a 52-minute video in one day is not ideal. Surprise.
right.
It took there's like how many years to produce? 52 minutes is a lot.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, sometimes it's the understanding of how or what exactly we are there for and what we can do. But it also comes down to where just the kind of like unreasonable
Mm,
deadlines. Oh, we just got this and we were supposed to send it out yesterday. Well, okay, that's not ideal for marketing because no one's going to see it now.
right.
But um, sometimes it's talking to your students and going, this is a potential reality. Something my students teach me. Not every place is going to be the same.
Mm,
So, and they have a good understanding of that. Not every place is going to be the same. So, while you're getting this information and you're getting all this experience, which is great, because you might be able to utilize some of it wherever you go, it's not going to be the same everywhere. And that's okay.
right.
It's okay. Um, that's some of the hardships. Um, sometimes I think I've gotten to a point where sometimes it's just funny. Like your older guy in the locker room who walks out to the gym in just a towel,
Yeah.
and you have to tell him, "Hey, back to the locker room."
Back to the locker with you. Oh goodness. Like older our age or older like older than you?
I'm talking like 60,
Oh man.
60.
How difficult is that? Telling somebody that was like, are you kidding me? Like who are you? You ever come across that sort of thing?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, great, you're comfortable with yourself. I'm really happy for you, but I need you to go into the locker room, maybe put some clothes on before you come out
Right.
and ask about locker
Oh
rules.
my
But
goodness.
um, most of a lot of the things that happen in my job, kind of a huge motto that I've taken is if I'm not having fun with the job, then I shouldn't be in this job. If
Okay.
I can't find some way to make it fun, and after my first degree, when I was doing a lot of freelance work and I had to work at retail, I had to find ways to make retail fun. And that's what kept me engaged with it. So a lot of my job now is just fun. Like, how can I make things
Mm,
fun? And I mean, I work in a rec center. Of course, it's going to be
right.
fun. We have fun everywhere. But there are those days where it's just there's a lot of demand in a very short amount of time, um, and we just have to be realistic, and we can still have fun being realistic.
So what about coworkers? How does that work with you and your coworkers? Is it a small group? Are y'all pretty tight, or how does that work?
It's um it's a larger group than what I'm used to working with. Um, so we have our programmers, which are our assistant director of fitness and wellness, Jenny. Um, Coordinator of group fitness is Larissa. Joaquin does the sports clubs. We have an assistant director of competitive sports position that will be open soon. And we have an outdoor coordinator. We have an aquatics coordinator. So the team gets kind of big, and it kind of feels right now it's very divided into what is facilities and operations. So standard signage versus actual programming signage, and programming, marketing, and stuff like that. So when I first got the job, they were doing everything on Teams, and um, I'm sorry, Bill Gates, but I do not like Teams. Like you should have done away with that, Microsoft.
Oh no.
But yeah, they were doing everything on Teams, so it kind of read into a giant message. So I had to look for project management systems to help us organize our entire workflow. We had to have a visual representation of where every project is. Um, Mainly also because I have a lot of reports I have to do at the end of the semester where it's like we've done this amount of projects, and what type of projects we have going on. So they do that. They'll submit in their requests from there. And yeah, as for the perimeter campuses, they go through their assistant director to submit in requests. And that one gets kind of interesting because the coordinators are at different campuses, and those campuses could be like 25 miles apart.
Oh,
So things do change constantly, and we just roll with it. I mean, sometimes sometimes my students are like, Bobby, I need to go. I need to go walk the track. I'll be right back.
just to kind of
And I'm like,
decompress.
decompress. Um, yeah, I mean, my students they'll like watch Netflix or they'll have like Netflix in the background or they'll listen to music. Whatever kind of helps them kind of create the creative flow. Now that they're at home, that creative flow is really going because
Mm,
they're within their safe space.
okay.
So yeah, that's kind of a general overview of how it all functions, but reality is it's a lot more chaotic. It's a lot more, oh, by the way, we've got one line on this poster that took you 2 hours to print. Oh, okay.
Too much Netflix.
Yeah. It's yeah, it's a lot of the things I plan on doing are implementing changes where we can actually all think humanistically for a
Mm,
second, but also work to create better visuals and a better brand voice to an audience member compared to a full audience. So we'll see. We'll keep that in the look. I'll keep that in the view at the point, but we'll get it done. And I love my coworkers to a certain degree.
that's awesome. So moving forward, you know, hopefully COVID goes away. I don't know how. I don't really care how. I just need it gone. Uh,
Right.
do you feel like working remotely within your, with Teams or any, I guess, other software that you're as productive or more productive
Um,
with the creative flow? And I know you said that it's gotten better because people are in their safe space and without that
yeah.
25-mile commute for some people.
Yeah. So it's gotten better. I will say that like my director brought up a really good analogy. We have physical doors, and when we work remotely through email and through web meetings and all these different things, those doors don't exist.
Mm,
those doors are completely taken off the hinges. And she's right. Email has allowed us to communicate massively and wide. So I would say communication, I think, has gotten a little bit stronger, even though we do like to go to each other's offices. Um, Kind of like the movie The Office and the
Oh no.
cubicles. We like to stare over each other. Um, but I think we've gotten better about explaining in words um, how we want something or how we want something worded on a particular
Mm.
graphic, or um, people I think feel more comfortable bringing up things that feel confrontational, especially when we were coming up with our reopening planning and going, what happens if we do have an outbreak? And, of course, the planning didn't go so smoothly. There's some people that still feel uncomfortable, but I feel like now through this process, they feel so much more safe to like openly talk about it,
Mm.
because there's something about not having to like look your boss in the eye saying I disagree with you, but you can do it in email and feel like, okay, I'm good.
I feel like a lot of that is to do with like auto correcting Grammarly. Right? So many people are like, man, I can't think of anything to say. You type a couple of letters in, then it just auto finishes the sentence. Like, oh, that's perfect. Yeah. I'm very
Yeah.
curious to see how life after this virus stuff goes back. I can't remember who I was listening to. They were kind of talking about, once people realize, like, hey, man, I've been doing this job from home, and you're seem to be, staying afloat, making the same amount of money, or anything like that. Um, why not just keep this process for those who want to keep it?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think we're starting to see that we're utilizing office spaces that don't necessarily need to be utilized. I think we're also starting to see benefits for having single mothers stay at home,
Mm,
for instance, and that's just one sect of person, but we're starting to see the need for childcare, but we're also starting to witness in like elementary, middle school, and high school easier ways to talk to students who may, for instance, they may be hospitalized, or they may be just sick, like severely sick, but now we have software where we can actually patch them in a class
mm,
and they can still listen in and do work. I think it's kind of pushed us into the digital era so much more.
mm-hmm.
Um, Movies wise, I mean, there were movies that were doing premieres online,
Right.
and I think we're going to start seeing more of that. I think we're going to see a lot more jobs going remote. I think we're going to see, um, what was it? I think we're going to start seeing uh, a lot more digital, a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some office spaces, again, I think are going to start disappearing, but I mean, it's understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think on the flip side of that coin, also, I think a lot more people are going to come out of this having to have done like a lot of self reflection.
Mm-hmm.
So um, it'll be interesting to see how what society does when things are under control as of the virus.
Right. Well, look, I don't think we'll ever be the same again, especially people who, I feel like I'm part of this, I guess, group who really had to. Once you get boxed in, I'm a pretty big personality, right? I like people. I like being in crowds. I like trying new things. I love failing, succeeding. But being kind of boxed in has really made me come to grips with some improvements, some self improvements I need to make, and I think that it's helped in a lot of ways, like confidence and things of that nature. I feel like I'm definitely reading more, which is always good. But I really feel like people are gonna have a different attitude about themselves, for better or worse. I can't really say, but I really think it is gonna force people to say like, you know what, I don't think I want this office job anywhere. You know, I don't like how you talk to me. You know, I want this vocation, or you know, I want to do this now. It'll be interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We can move together, thinking that, or putting it out there in the universe that it's a positive change.
Positive
We
change. That's
can
right. Good vibes.
good vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can all say. My students say it, like say it to the universe. Don't say I want to do something. I will do this.
Right.
And that's something they taught. That's something they taught me, and it's been powerful in our office. It's just I'm going to do this.
I'm gonna have to,
So
I'm gonna have to borrow that.
yeah.
Yeah. So how does this affect
So
it like home life? Is it Are you one of those that feel more comfortable working remotely, or do you just miss the face to face contact? That sounds weird.
um,
The face to face interactions, I guess. Face to face contact. Oh, jeez.
uh, I enjoyed working at home on the fact that I could wear gym shorts and just like a regular t-shirt.
Yeah.
I didn't have to get dressed up. I didn't have to go fight Atlanta traffic.
Oh,
So there were
yeah.
benefits. There were a lot of benefits. Now, there were things I did miss in my office. Like I miss being able to shut my door, listen to music, shut my blinds. Like again, my office, like the marketing
Mm-hmm.
office, is away from everyone else.
Right.
So I don't have to walk down a hallway. I'm completely hidden. So I I miss those aspects. I miss like being able to just go in, and yeah, there were things that were just nice to have on campus.
Mm-hmm.
It, um, being able to see people and uh, just joke. Like I have one coworker. Every time we walk by each other, we'll pause and then we'll flick each other off really fast and then run away.
That sounds like a Brian move. I feel like I've gotten
just
that.
just randomly down a hallway, stop, and then we run. And then it's just those kind of personalities. I think with a lot of people, it's just being able to interact, especially when you do have a big personality, a very outgoing personality. You're a lot more extroverted than you are
Mm.
introverted, um, especially in work life. I think it gets a little dull sitting at home. Again, though, for me, it was nice not having to wake up
Right.
at 6 o'clock and say, okay, what is the line of traffic like today?
Right.
So,
Who knows? Maybe
yeah.
this will help with accidents and environment. Maybe some of these office buildings scale back a little bit and plant a garden instead. Like who knows how this could be a positive if we are sort of forced into this new way of life.
Yeah, yeah. Less emissions going out for sure.
Absolutely.
Uh, but um, I would say if kind of going back to that last question though, the I think one big thing that families are going to kind of do are start actually focusing on family time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've had a lot of friends who were able to kind of start working remotely, and they're like, I didn't even know my kid really enjoyed this
Mm.
because I was at work when they came home and did their homework, and I was like, wow, they actually really enjoy this, and I can now sit down with them and watch it with them,
Yeah.
and you know, it's there's going to be some benefit. There's going to be a massive benefit, I think, to the family unit as long as the family unit is working on it together. Um, I mean, I would definitely say like with us, we we work at two separate desks normally, so it's just yelling at each other back and forth. Did you feed the dog? No. Okay, I'll go feed the dog, and it is kind of nice though to kind of take lunch breaks and just be here and being able to talk with one
Mm-hmm.
another, watch TV, and then go back to work instead of having like to pick up the phone, call, like hide myself in my office. It's small.
Wait, so I missed something. Us. Is this the person that you guys flick each other off in the hallway?
No, no, this is my partner at home.
Oh, sorry.
At home.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I'm at home. Yeah,
Yeah.
my coworker and I, we've gone back to it. So like, but
Yeah.
me and my partner, when we're both at home, it's nice to kind of just say, "Hey, what's going on right now? Oh, I got this going on." Like,
Okay, nice. Yeah. Not just a phone
we're able-
call or a texting. It's like, duck your head out the room and just, hey, hey, all right, back to work.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, our dog obviously enjoys it. So, um,
Now, are dogs harder to keep away from like Zoom calls or anything like that than kids?
yeah,
Because I know
yeah,
I've had a couple of issues with the show doing it from the house. They've made
yeah.
some cameos there.
Yeah, yeah, it's the dog is like right here during a Zoom call, and I'm just like, yeah, so this and this, and it's like
Like pushing the
here,
ball. Yeah, no, yeah, everything is fine. Like, what is he doing?
something right
Yeah.
here.
What kind of
Um,
dogs?
I, my dog is a golden retriever and a blue heeler
Oh, so they're
mix.
not the small dogs, they're big dogs. If they want to get on the
She's a
camera, they're getting on the camera.
yeah, yeah. She doesn't understand personal space
Hmm.
with anything, so she's just like constantly right here. In the morning, she will be right here, like wake up. She's like, "Come on, fat man, come feed me. I'm hungry."
Yeah.
Um,
You just described your
but
dog like my wife describes me. She's like, you're like a big dog who doesn't know he's big. Like, 'cause I'm constantly just flopping on her and, I'm getting the look, Bobby. Uh-oh. Getting the look.
oh,
Okay. Let's stay focused. Yeah. I'll tell you what. We had a guest before. I've talked to this guy a couple of times. He's a Marine vet. And
mhm.
he does a lot of stuff. He does a lot of energy type things. He and his son go hiking in the mountains and camping a lot. And he talks about all these frequencies and energy. Do you feel there's been a decline in that, as far as being feeling that energy from someone face to face versus through a Zoom call?
Yeah, I will say that. One thing one of my internship supervisors told me were humans are made to connect.
Mm,
Even introverted people and everything, we are made, we are just biologically, neurologically, whatever you want to call
mm,
it, but we are bound to connect. And I do think there has been a decrease. I'm not sure if I can say like it's fully just from technology. I think a lot of it also has to come from self-reflection.
mm.
I think the fact that people are now having to sit, instead of distracting themselves by going out, they now have to sit with themselves and actually think.
A
And
dangerous
that,
pastime.
yeah, they have to kind of face some of those demons or kind of face some of those thoughts that they didn't want to think about. And I feel like it's been a huge energy drop because now that they have to socialize, there's something that's constantly holding them back. Because now it's like, oh, this is always in my mind now. I've always been able to suppress it,
Mm.
but suppressed thoughts, flashbacks, all of that. It's like taking a beach ball, going out in the ocean, putting it underwater. It's just gonna pop right back up.
Mm.
So, I would say I would definitely agree with him. Like there's just been a massive drop, um, and I feel like it's going to be our jobs to kind of pick it back up. Um, because I think once we kind of face those things, the energy will be different, but it'll still be positive and it'll still be great. It's just going to take us to do it in our own time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I do I do think that we have the capability of restoring really great energy. Um, but it's going to take some time.
Yeah. Time and like we said before, community. That sense of community has to come back. We have to do better with that. You don't have to.
Mm,
That's one of my favorite things about being, I guess, what's the word, tolerant. right? You don't have
Hmm.
to agree, you don't have to like it, but we can behave civilly and try to work together to come to a consensus, right?
Yeah.
Whew, energy, man. Now I'm thinking about Sturgis. That was the guy's name, Sturgis. He's a corporal. But man, he like we'll get to talking and we'll get off on a tangent, and then I'll mention energy. Like, oh, right, right. So energy. But it's really cool. I've always been very interested in different mindsets and different people's energy and culture. I
Hmm.
think we can do this better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. We have the opportunity. We just gotta take it.
that's it. So back to your job. What is one of your, I guess, biggest failures that you thought like, oh man, the next time that situation comes up, I'm gonna crush it.
Oh, uh, losing my cool with
You?
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think I can.
Oh,
I don't think I can picture that.
yeah. My Brian came out a little bit.
That I can picture.
Yeah.
That was good. I got a clear visualization now.
Yeah. So the I definitely lost my cool. When I was a graduate assistant here as well. Like there have been a couple times where I definitely felt myself getting heated, and I keep ask instead of just taking my like a step back, going like, in the aggregate, does this really matter?
Mm,
Asking yourself those three questions. Did I cause it? Can I control it? Can I change it? Instead of asking myself those, I immediately just got overwhelmed.
mm,
And what I've noticed is a lot was my anger. It's out of confusion. So I'm not asking enough questions to get clarity. I just immediately jump to anger.
mm,
Um, and I did the same thing with my students here. I definitely snapped at my students here. My students and I had a little bit of a rocky time kind of getting into building
mm,
rapport, but I'm very grateful that they've worked with me on it. Because that first situation, I will say that person and I will probably never speak to each other ever
oh
again.
wow.
This time around, when I did it, I definitely was able to kind of come back going, that is not the way I should have acted. And they were able to kind of talk to me, and now they're opening up so much more. So, yeah, when I was faced the situation the second time, I definitely saw the benefit of just asking more questions so I can
Yeah,
get some clarification.
that is awesome. Because it's definitely. I'm glad to hear that they gave you the space. I mean, you guys clashed, gave you the space to kind of come back around. Then there's some forgiveness there, and then you move forward with a better relationship. That's something we all can learn from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I'm definitely trying to work on that myself. I don't know if you. I feel like in high school, people just looked at me as like a teddy bear. It's like, he's harmless, but yeah, I have a temper, but I am working on it.
Yeah. Yeah. High school, I think, that's just the hardest place to try controlling anger.
Mm,
I feel like. But I also, I think I laughed at anger a lot during high school when other people got
mm,
angry, especially Coach Stone. When he would get angry, because you couldn't hear or understand what he would say, he would just like, or like just, I'm like, what?
mm,
What did you say? Other people would articulate it, so you knew how bad you were getting put down. But him, it was a lot of noise,
right.
just a lot of noise. So I was like, okay, all right, yeah, okay. But that was kind of the thing is, I think from that early start, I started kind of exploring like my own anger issues and a lot of like holding it in and where it all comes from in the first place. Like,
Mm,
I don't want to be seen as somebody who's like less than intelligent. It's just the matter is like I'm intelligent in my own
mm,
standpoint. People are intelligent in their standpoint. If I don't understand something, I have an opportunity to ask questions.
mm-hmm. Where do you think some of that anger came from? Is it having a shared living space with Brian and Zayden?
Oh, it is. I think you remember the like we had the basement space.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, that was painful.
Oh, I can
That was
imagine. Now talk about trauma. That was probably traumatic.
growing. I am not going to get into his dating history, but
Oh no, please don't.
no, I'm not.
We just want him to
I
get
think
just nervous enough. That's it.
that's never.
Yeah.
No, he. I think we were just kind of. This is like the indoctrinated kind of learning.
Mm.
We were like, if you don't understand something, or like, you have to feel anger. Like I think that was kind of a norm in our family at one point. It doesn't matter like if you're feeling angry, you need to act out. You need to act on it
Mm.
or something. Like you don't need to suppress it. But the truth of the matter is, it wasn't about suppressing. It was just about processing it.
Mm.
And I think later on, as you know, our family grew and evolved, we started learning that we kind of need to know where it's coming from.
Mm.
And I think now we're a lot better about it. Um, yeah, I think we're a lot better about it now than we ever have been. But I do think it comes from how we are raised, like how anger is like anger. If you kind of think about it, like in your umbrella, like it's an umbrella term
Mm.
because you got to consider there's so many other emotions that you're feeling with anger. Um, and it's kind of easier if you actually say I'm angry because I'm confused or I'm angry because I feel hopeless. You can actually operate more in hopeless than you can in anger. So you can figure out like why am I feeling hopeless? Like there's something to kind of pick on in one of the other emotions going this is why. This is why I'm feeling this way and um it's easier to kind of work with. In fact, I mean, there's actually a technique called the anger umbrella or the iceberg. Um, but yeah, it's acting like, are you besides anger, what else are you feeling? And it's
Oh,
like
okay.
I'm asking myself now.
Yeah,
So
that's the good. So you have your masters there. You're a smart guy. You can travel back in time. What are you telling 14-year-old Jeremy Gales or J-Zilla, as I'm known on the show? Like, and what the frap are you gonna tell Brian yourself? Like, what's the one bit of advice that you would give, high school us?
um, ah, that's a good one for high school. But if I went back in time, I think I would definitely tell you and Brian to take it slow and understand that things don't have to happen immediately.
Mm.
Understand that this portion of your life is a stepping stone for something else. Um,
I appreciate that. I can use that
right?
now.
I mean, it's gotten you to where you are now, and where you are now is in you're in a good place. Like you're exploring uh, talk with other people and stuff like that. Like that's something to be celebrated with. So, you know, you have great kids, you have a wife. Brian has his son, his fiance. Like, you guys are in great points in your life. So just understand that high school wasn't the do all end all.
Mm.
It is just a stepping stone for where you're gonna
Yeah,
go.
I love
And then for me, I would definitely tell myself, don't grow your hair
it.
out.
Why not? No, here's the thing. Both of y'all had some fantastic hair. And you look at Pops, it's like, man, why do y'all shave your heads?
Oh, I don't know about Brian, but me, it's I'm rocking the toilet bowl here.
Oh, I see.
So the hair is the hair decided to go
Mm.
on its
You're going to have to
own.
make room for
Now
the
Brian,
brain.
I guess so, but Brian kept it. I would definitely tell myself that um, I would tell myself to slow down, to think, like to what is your wise mind saying, your intelligent mind, and what is your emotional mind saying,
Mm.
and how do both play the same arena? Because there were times I definitely were like I was definitely over emotional. I was definitely not logical. It seems like I kept things together, but truth of the matter is I was a ticking time bomb most of the time. Especially like in the locker room when I had to dress
Mm-hmm.
Josh Huff because he had always broken two arms all the time.
Josh Huff, that's a name I have not heard in a long time. Thank you so much for bringing that up. That kid, oh man,
Full season of having to dress him for
oh my
games.
goodness.
And you know how he kept his locker. It was disgusting.
Yes, yeah, yeah, poor you. How did you get? How did you get that job?
I think I made Stone mad. Probably McKnight. I probably made McKnight mad, but I don't feel like that was hard. Uh, but yeah, I think that for me it was just telling myself to kind of slow down and understand where things are coming at and not acting on them.
Mm.
To really think about what was it? To think about where is this feeling really coming from, and is your action really going to match what you really kind of mean to do? I think that's what I would say. Now, would I listen? Probably not. I was like that all like that all. We were invincible,
Oh yeah,
but it's
the
okay.
knuckleheads. So what? 'Cause I want to utilize like you have all this experience, right? All this knowledge, as being a teen yourself to a professional. You got your degrees there. What advice would you give parents? Like, what should they be telling their children now to prepare them for college and I guess anything else that comes?
I support you no matter what you do. That is the biggest thing you can tell a child because while certain kids go into certain careers just based on what their parents do or
Mm-hmm.
because they feel like they need to. It's leaving that door open and just saying, I support whatever you want to do. Like if you want to go in to get your bachelor's in philosophy and work in the mall for the rest of your life, if you want to do that, or you want to go all the way to being a doctor, I support you every step of the way.
Mm.
But also allow them to change their minds.
Okay.
Like I allow them to change majors. Allow them to say, I was an English major, but truth of the matter is now I want to go to the education path. I want to teach English. Allow them to do that.
All right. Now, how many times should you allow them to do that?
Well, luckily for my students, like they're set.
Mm.
They're all seniors now, so they are exactly where they want to be. But for me, I definitely changed my major. I went from social work to graphic design,
Mm.
and then I went to get my master's in clinical mental health, and now I'm back in marketing. So I think the idea of what is called equifinality. So 1 plus 2 equals 3. What was it? 4 minus 1 equals 3. You have so many different solutions to the same goal. It doesn't all have to look the same.
Mm.
So practice equifinality with your kids.
Equifinality. Am I saying that right? See, I know I should have brought my
What?
thesaurus here. I should have prepared for Bobby. I'm gonna rewatch this tape a couple times. Don't worry. Don't worry about me. So, okay, so allow them to change their major. How much should the parent have to pay for that? Asking for a friend.
Oh, oh, that one. Yeah, when you're paying for it, that's kind of tough. maybe even putting a boundary in place with them, also saying like, look, I can support one change, but
Mm,
you know, being honest with your kid, like we can't financially support
mm,
massive changes. So if you do change, you may have to find like your own financial support on it. And being honest with kids about finances is another step for them, because maybe they'll say, you know, instead of going to the university, I'm going to go to community college, knock out some of my core classes
mm.
first, and then decide what I want to do. Um, Maybe that's what they need.
See, this is how I know I'm talking to an educator. That was a joke, Bobby.
Oh, okay.
But I love
Sorry.
the breakdown. It sounds great. I was sitting over here trying to
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's great, man. See, I don't know. Like with mine, it's one of those things of trying to find that happy balance because I feel like we're very supportive, and I know our children have said as much, very rarely, but they have said it. I have it on record. I play it back, so I can sleep at night. So, but how do you? I'm gonna use your counselor side here. How do
Mm.
you find the happy medium between like, hey, what do you want to do, and they say it, but then you don't see them actively taking the steps necessarily towards that goal?
Um, you can probably. Well, I would say I would, if I was in those shoes, I'd say, so you had talked about wanting to do this, but on the other hand, you're doing this.
Tell me about that.
So, yeah, tell me about that. Like, how do you
Yeah.
both play in this arena? Well, I'm just not sure. I think you're at that point, it's like you really want to talk and hear them say, I'm not sure.
Mm,
Because at least they're being honest.
right.
And at least you're saying, like, okay, like, do you feel like you have pressure on you right now? Do you feel like, how can I support you? How can I find a way to support you while you are exploring your options? And it's, you know, kind of hearing them out, um, allowing them to take the lead on the
Mm,
situation. Um, but just being there as a support for the most part is going to help kind of create a lot of balance. Um, it's really, it gets really kind of interesting with career counseling. I'll say that
mm,
because a lot of personality types can tell you like this job, this job, this job. But truth of the matter is, until you actually explore and really kind of know all the work that's involved to get to that
mm-hmm.
spot, um, it's a whole different game. It's the same thing with um, if you're going to a college or you're going to go view colleges with your kids, and they're like, you know, they're on that tour. Train them kind of, or say train them, but teach them enough to where they're asking a lot of questions. They're very inquisitive.
Mm,
What is it really like here? Like, if it's another student giving the tour, like, be honest. What is it really like here?
mm. That's
You
good.
know, um, but with the jobs are the same. It's the same way with the jobs. Someone who wants, one of your kids wants to be a veterinarian, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, well, let's go talk to a vet about what they've done.
Okay, let them see it in action.
Yeah, like kind of try getting so much information. Like, what do you know about it? What about it exactly attracts you? Like, is there enough of a passion that's going to carry you through all those years? Because we do know some careers are going to be postgraduate. They needed to get
Mm.
postgraduate. So, yeah.
Wow, man, I appreciate that advice. So are you with your master's in counseling, correct?
Hmm.
Are you ever tempted to kind of use those superpowers against your family? I hear what you're saying, but actually, studies have shown, any of that?
Oh, I have.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, redirecting conversations, reframing conversations. Um, there was yeah, last Christmas was definitely like, hold on, like I'm not going to completely stop the conversation right
Mm-hmm.
now, but if the other person was talking, we need to hear them out. Let's let them
Ah,
talk.
refereeing.
And then I want to go back to this, and I was like, Bobby, seriously, and
Yeah.
uh, yeah, like that's very interesting. Tell me more, or
Yeah.
it's feeling this way because in your mind, this is what's kind of going on,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just like, I'm done. I'm done. I was like, you guys aren't even paying me.
What about our guy Jordan Zaidan? Billy Joe. I don't even think he goes by Billy Joe. I'm sad about that. He's too cool for that. It's like Jay-Z 4 or something or other. I don't know. It's hard to keep up with these kids. Yeah, what's the best advice that you would give him, especially at his age? That's a tough
Quit,
age.
quit being a smart aleck.
No
Um,
chance. Okay, next one. What's the next piece of advice? Because there is no
yeah,
chance. You know who his father is, right?
yeah, no,
Uh,
I know. I would tell Jordan, um, I would tell him it's okay to have a connection with somebody that is serious.
mm,
It's
that's
okay to
good.
have a connection with somebody that isn't built on jokes and
Mm-hmm.
laughter, but you guys can have serious conversations.
That is,
Um,
yeah.
I would definitely say that. I would definitely say that with him. Um, also, quit trying to grow your mustache. It doesn't look right.
Again, no chance. I tell you what, 1 out of 3 isn't bad. We can utilize one of those. But
Yeah, there
quit
you
growing the
go.
mustaches out. Smart Alec out. Like, what the frap are you gonna do with that sort of personality, man? He is such a good kid, and he's so capable and competent. And it's just you have all these gifts. Like I'm just when I was there for that short amount of time, I was almost like just blinded by the light. I felt almost starstruck. You know, I had to rough him up a little bit just to kind of like relax, man. It's Uncle Jay. Like, come on, talk to me. And what I found, which is something I'm planning on doing for I guess the YouTube channel, is kind of games with kids, Kids Corner. I haven't really nailed the name down yet, but I do this with my 15-year-old daughter too. This weird thing of if we're not looking at each other and we're focusing
Yeah.
on something else and just kind of having a side conversation. Like we played cards and like there was no eye contact at all. But we were just playing cards and I was asking questions and she seemed to be a lot more open that way. I did the same thing with him. You know, we get on the sticks as the kids I guess used to say. I don't know what they say now. But yeah, let him beat me up in some let him. He beat me up in some NBA 2K, you know, and of course, you know, taming Brian's enthusiasm and energy is a whole nother thing. But once we get, you know, douse that fire a little bit, you know, asked him questions and he answered them seriously, and it felt really good. Like I'm trying to figure out, you know, what is it with that age group that like don't make eye contact, be doing something else, smoking mirrors, distraction, you know, to really extract, you know, some very serious thoughts that they house.
I think it's they're experiencing so much of it all at once.
Mm.
They just,
Sensor overload.
I think it's a sensory overload. I think it's also um, this constant need. I mean, if you think about Erickson's psychosocial stages, right? They're in this stage where they have to be viewed from like their environment. Like they have to be their identity has to match what their environment is saying, and their environment has to match how they think. And it's like they're all trying to get on the same page without realizing like you don't have to be on the same page.
Mm.
You guys, like, believe me, like as you grow up, you'll realize no one's on the same page. So it's okay to have different pages. And I think with him, there's a lot of like it's how he's viewed. Blake, I think, kind of like cuts a little bit of the
Mm-hmm.
conversation when somebody tries being real with him, there's a little bit of a trust of, can I trust this?
Mm.
Like, can I let this down for a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
And because I mean, let's face it, like middle school and high school is brutal. It's prison
Yeah.
rules.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I actually had a very small stint at a prison. Okay, wait. I worked as a corrections officer at a prison. I didn't want you to be like, wait, what? No, so yeah, man, and that seemed a lot more tame than what I'm saying now. I coached high school, and it is just so different. Like I always
Yeah.
find myself, I feel like an old man. Like back in my day, that wasn't allowed. We talked about Coach Stone. The first opportunity I got as a freshman to even practice with the varsity squad, a guy messed up, and it was just, you know, how to say, I don't even know how to say it. Like it was some volume used, right? Some very strong words, and he turned to me and he grabbed my face mask and he's just, you better get every play right. And I'm a freshman. I'm 14 at this time. Now, of course, I'm bigger than him at the time too, but I still had I very much had a 14-year-old mind. So I'm just like, oh no, what do I do? And so slings me in, and luckily it worked out. Like I felt like he was gonna kill me, you know. But I don't know, man. It is brutal. High school, I think middle school especially. Like there's a lot
Mhm.
happening all at once. Like you said, that sensory overload, and them just trying to fit in, find themselves, reconcile parental and teacher information with their peers' information. It's just, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keeping the door open again. Like I'm here as a support,
Mm.
proving it every single way, and just being with them. I think another thing with teenagers, especially that age range,
Mm-hmm.
just being genuine, not trying to like get on their level, but just being genuine
Mm.
and just like honest about stuff, and obviously not trying to glamorize bad stuff,
Right.
but
Right.
uh, just being kind of just being absolutely honest
Mm.
with them. It goes a long way because they are still trying. Their identity plays a lot into their family unit and their environment. So you are part of their environment.
Mm. First line of
Yeah.
defense. No pressure, right?
Right. There you
I
go.
just got to get all of them, stably out into society, and then maybe get a couple of big dogs. I think dogs are a lot easier. What do you think, producer? Oh, she's saying, look at the camera. All right, sorry. Yeah. So what if they are saying something frapping stupid? How do you just okay? Tell me about that. How do you get over that?
uh, work as 1 year as a counselor.
Hmm.
That's how I say that.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Get some scale.
yeah, it's almost kind of like you kind of have to get out of your own body for a second. It's practicing that unconditional positive regard. It's you know, while my friend is telling me that I can do this because her parents say it, and yeah, we know that's like really really stupid.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is like which that person's really trying to say is like I want freedom.
Mm.
It's almost like just okay, your friend's doing this. Why is that important to you, or what makes that important to you?
Mm.
Like, what about she's able to do? Because her parents don't question her, and it's like, okay, well, there's freedom. Like, you feel like you don't have enough freedom. How can I support you, give you freedom, but at the same time, make sure like you understand what comes with that
Yeah.
freedom? So, I would say, yeah. Um, as for my actual like student workers, when they say something stupid, I just go in my office. I just
Just eject from the conversation for a brief moment and process, and then come back a little calmer. Yeah.
yeah, they. I have one student who just says like random stuff, so that doesn't even apply. I'm just like, please go back to work.
All right. Thank you for sharing. Get out of my office. Yeah, I'm gonna take some ghost notes here. Just get some dogs. Got it. Yeah, man. Oh, boy. Or, so you talked about your partner there. Do you ever use
Hmm.
your master's jujitsu on your partner? Or no, wait. Yeah, yeah.
He does it on me.
Oh,
Like
right.
he has a master's in counseling, so he's
Oh,
really good
that's
at it too.
right. That's right. Yeah, I try to mix
Uh,
it in, you know, like we didn't have a conversation before we shot, letting people peek behind the curtains
yeah,
here. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, he is brilliant at it, and there are a couple times I'll catch him, and I'm like, I know what you're doing. I know exactly
Is
what
it
you're
like I
doing.
got you,
But,
or are you just like very calm and like, oh, I see what's happening here? You break out your contingency plans and
I know
counterpoints.
I break into the Zaidan mode where I'm just like, I got you. I get really excited
Do you have
about
a
it,
victory dance?
but
Like,
a little bit, yeah. But no, it's interesting with both of us because we actually will sit and we'll listen to each other, and we know how to give each other enough
oh,
silence.
that's
I think
wonderful.
that's a big thing. It's like we give each other enough
Yeah.
silence to where they are able to say everything, and we're not cutting them off mid thought.
Ooh,
Um,
sorry. I'm gonna apologize to my producer over here. Look, I don't know if it's I don't know. I'm always applying stuff to me directly. I don't know. I don't know what the technical term for that is. Is it what is it? Narcissism. Thank you, producer. Narcissism. Yeah. So, well, speaking of which, would you mind earmuffing yourself there? How do I win arguments, man? How the frap do I
how do you
win arguments? Help me with this.
how do you
Just
argue it?
twice a year. That's all I'm asking. Twice a year. I want to be right and her wrong. Help me. Come on. Don't worry about her. Pretend like she's not here. Just come on. What do you got? Because I guarantee you there are other people in relationships like me who are just like, she's right again. Take on it. Or he's right again. Take on it. You know, how the frap do we get two a year?
Honestly,
Just two.
honestly, listen, give her
Ah.
silence. That's all it is. Just listen and give her silence, and just go,
Yeah.
just sit there and like, okay, like, and use I statements.
Ooh.
So, like, for instance, you didn't take out the trash. She's like, I told you on Tuesday, and going like, you know what? I don't remember this happening on Tuesday.
Mm.
Yeah, you were sitting right there and there, like in the here, and just like listening to her, like leaning in, making sure like you're showing a lot of was it nonverbal
Yeah.
communication. It's like, okay, I don't remember it. I'll go ahead and take this out. Maybe next time, what I'll do is, if there's something that needs to be done, I can just write it on the board. How about we do that? And just like I'm telling you right now, it's like the arguments will start to kind of simmer down. But it's listening, it's using I statements, it's not blaming one
Mm.
another. That's a really big thing. Is like, well, you did this and you did this, instead of just use your I
Yeah.
statements. That way nobody feels like they're being blamed. It's from my perspective, I noticed that when this was happening, I was over here focused on this. So I don't remember anything that happened over
Mm.
here. You know, there's no argument with like saying, well, your perspective is wrong. It's like I clearly told you.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, what's happening in that moment also? Did you just come home from work and it was a rough work day?
Right.
Maybe it's like the first couple like minutes that I come home, like maybe I just need to sit, chill for a second, and then if there's like important information, let me know. Or make sure that I'm making eye contact with you.
Mm.
So that way it sticks.
I like that. I like that.
So
Stay in my own experience. I feel like okay, I have to be top 10 global or I guess international my frapping apology game is on point. My frustrations are I want to stop doing so much to have to apologize. And I'm really searching for some answers here like I am going to work on that.
there you go.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, Bobby. I don't know how long. I can talk forever. Am I okay? Are you okay on time?
I probably need to get going in about a couple minutes. It's 10:30 here.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess that means you're just going to have to come back.
Yeah, for sure.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for joining me. My guest, Bobby Zaidan, mental jujitsu master. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.